Further debate, I recognize the member for Beaches, East York.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I cannot actually believe we are having this debate, that we're having to debate this topic, especially on a day like today, February 27th, when temperatures are soaring. Just another balmy day of plus 12 degrees in the middle of winter. Does this government read weather forecasts, UN warnings, newspapers, health reports, or even tea leaves? Because the climate emergency is all around us. Today I come before you with a sense of urgency and deep concern regarding Bill 165, the so-called Keeping Energy Costs Down Act, a piece of legislation that threatens any environmental progress and will actually increase the price of gas for consumers. This bill seeks to undermine the authority of an independent energy watchdog, and as is routine for this government, prioritize corporate interests over the well-being of Ontarians. To the people of Ontario, I am so sorry that you are being misled time and time again by this government.
Yes, I'm going to ask the member to withdraw the unparliamentary comment.
Withdraw.
And continue her remarks.
They are failing the futures of your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. Their only priority is lining the pockets of their friends and wealthy insiders they serve. Well, Mr. Speaker, how do they expect to spend that money on a dead planet? Okay, where do we begin? The Ontario Energy Board, an independent arm's-length regulator mandated to protect the interests of energy customers, released a landmark decision telling Enbridge Gas to stop subsidizing its plans to expand infrastructure for methane-heavy natural gas by charging buyers of new homes for connections. I agree with this decision. It should have been done and dusted after that board made that bold and brave choice. Forward-thinking choice, I might add. Well, here's the problem. The government has an obsession, this government has an obsession with fossil fuels and heating up the planet. They just love it. You know, this decision got them really heated, so to speak. Enter Bill 165. Not only is it poor environmental and energy policy, it overrides the sound decision from a regulatory body. Why not just stay out of it? Do you think you know it all? Obviously. The government's insistence on pushing forward with methane-heavy natural gas expansion, despite its detrimental effects on global warming, is deeply troubling. What side of history does this government want to be on, Mr. Speaker? Because trust me when I say future generations will look back on these decisions with astonishment and disdain, seeing that their government knowingly put their futures at stake. The climate crisis is here and now. Wake up, dinosaurs. With this bill, the government is attempting to overrule the Ontario Energy Board.
I apologize. I need to interrupt the member. I do have a point of order. The member for Nepean.
I'd like to seek some clarification. Did the member opposite just accuse members of the government of being dinosaurs?
All right. I will just caution the member to use appropriate language when talking about, other parties generally. Let's try to be respectful by making your point across. Thank you.
Sorry, pterodactyls. With this bill, the government... Wow, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. I see that every day.
That's right. It happens every day.
With this bill, the government is attempting to overrule the Ontario Energy Board, an independent regulatory mandated to safeguard the interests of energy consumers in order to appease Enbridge Gas. Here we have the Ontario government taking an unprecedented step, overruling an Ontario Energy Board decision designed to protect homeowners and ratepayers in order to benefit a fossil fuel giant. Come on. The Minister of Energy told reporters this legislation was needed because the board's decision was rushed and irrational. Whoa, do you want to talk about rushed and irrational decisions? Everything this government has done is rushed and irrational. Let me remind you, Greenbelt, rushed, irrational, reversed, and revoked. Not to mention now under a criminal investigation by the RCMP. Notwithstanding clause, rushed, irrational, reversed, and revoked. Bill 124, rushed, irrational, reversed, and revoked.
Yep.
Severing farmland, rushed.
Again, I have a point of order. The Minister of Environment.
Perplexed as to what this has to do with the bill. If you just kindly, through you, Speaker, we could remind us what we're debating at the moment. Thank you.
We'll just remind the member to focus her comments on the subject of the bill. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a quote that someone else used in the debate that I was addressing. So thank you very much for the clarification. Thanks for your interest. I could go on, but I only have 10 minutes. According to the minister, this was a wrong decision that was made without proper consultation. Let's see about that. Thanks to the Narwhal for reporting on this, and the quote I will now read. The Ontario Energy Board's year-long decision-making process involved tens of thousands of pages of documents analyzed in public hearings and dozens of interviews with experts across the energy industry. It also heard from stakeholders such as the Federation of Rental Housing Providers of Ontario and the Building Owners and Managers Association. The board considered the perspective of the province's independent electricity system operator, IESO, including its policy on decarbonization and the energy transition. That sounds like a heck of a lot of consultation to me. Why don't we ramp up heat pumps? Hey, the Minister of Energy actually told us that he even has one in his own home. How great is that? A leader. The minister actually believes in renewable energy for himself, and yet axes that opportunity for others. Ontario, which has the lowest per capita rate of heat pumps, sitting at just 2% of households using a heat pump as its primary source. Under the Canada Greener Homes Grant, Ontarian residents are eligible for a rebate for a heat pump and a home energy audit. While the rebate has slowly helped Ontarians make the switch, the program is set to end in March, with no commitment from this government, no support for future incentives. Will the government continue providing the rebate and promote heat pumps, or ramp up natural gas production to continue to dirty the province's once 94% emission-free electricity grid? If it's good enough for the Minister of Energy's house, I'm sure it's good enough for all the people of Ontario, right, Madam Speaker? Why is the government so opposed to addressing the climate crisis and implementing more renewable energy sources? Little history lesson for all of you. Back in 2018, when the Conservatives took office, what did they do? Killed the Green Energy Act and spent over $230 million to cancel 758 green energy projects in wind and solar energy. Most of these initiatives were already in the building process, and the government axed them. The government continues to move away from the biggest economic opportunity of the century, green jobs and green energy. It is the future. Look at the rest of the world. We are missing out on a global opportunity. This government continues to drive in reverse. Cancelled, reversed, and revoked. At the end of the day, you want to trust your government to create forward-thinking, smart, fair policy decisions. The people of Ontario are losing confidence in this government because they continue to revoke, reverse, and override. Bill 165 will make energy bills more expensive for ratepayers, will work to destroy Ontario's chances at reaching our emission targets to combat the climate emergency, and will force us to lose out and fall behind in the global green economy.
Thank you. We're going to move to questions for the member of Beaches East York. I recognize the The member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, the member of the opposition talked about the Ontario Energy Board. So while the Ontario Energy Board made hundreds of decisions a year, and to their credit, almost all of them without issue. This one particular decision did raise some concerns about public engagement in the decision-making process. In fact, the decision itself, one commissioner noted that this decision, which could have significant impacts on electricity demand, was reached without input from the province's independent electricity system operator. It is concerning that member of the Commission didn't know that the impact of the decision before signing it off. Therefore, we've proposed to increase public engagement. So does the member of the opposite agree that increased public engagement is the right thing to do? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The member for Beaches East York to respond.
It's interesting how this government wants public engagement now. How much did you have for the Greenbelt debacle? How much did you have for the notwithstanding clause? How much did you have for Bill 124? And how much did you have for severing of the farmland? But all of a sudden now you want community engagement, you want public engagement. Well, as I told you, there were tens of thousands of pages of documents analyzed in public hearings, dozens of interviews with experts across the energy industry, and hearing from stakeholders such as the Federation of Rental Housing Providers of Ontario and the Building Owners and Managers of Association, as well as the IESO. It's a heck of a lot more engagement than this government's ever done. Walk the talk.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next question, the member for Nickel Belt.
Would the member agree that the Ontario Energy Board is an independent regulator? When you decide to get natural gas, you cannot go to the competition and see if you get the best prices. We get the best price because we have an agency that oversees Enbridge and that says, yes, this is reasonable, no, this is not reasonable. Now, with this bill, we will have politicians who welcome all sorts of lobbyists into their office, and their staff, making decision as to what will Enbridge be allowed to. Do you think that the method where we have a oversight agency in the Ontario Energy Board who is there to protect the public is a safer method than leaving it to the government?
Thank you. The member for Beaches East York.
Thank you for the question. And we have these regulatory bodies which are supposed to be independent and arm's length for a reason. Because unlike what some people think in this chamber, we don't know it all. We need checks and balances, and that's what the OEB is. And I cannot believe that this government has the audacity to meddle with the Ontario Energy Board's decision. Just who do you think you are? What, like now with the judges, you're going to appoint your judges? What, are you going to look at the FAO and all of a sudden have your buddy on there? The Auditor General, the Integrity Commissioner?
Answer.
We need unbiased regulators.
Thank you. Do we have another question? The Minister for Environment, Conservation and Park.
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to ask the member, is she, in her remarks, is she proposing we go back to the green energy deal that the former Liberal government proposed, the same green energy deal that saw the cost of energy 3.5 times more expensive in Ontario than our U.S. counterparts, that made people in Ontario choose between heating and eating, and one of the primary reasons that the former Liberal government lost government. And while we were brought in, where we stabilized electricity prices, we stabilized the grid, we're diversifying our energy, we're reducing greenhouse gas emission and meeting our targets versus our federal counterparts that are not. And we're doing this without a carbon tax, which is the federal government.
Thank you. For a quick response.
I would like this government to do something on climate action, just something. It's not going to be solved with just EVs and a provincial park. How about you look at deep energy retrofits and subsidies for that, heat pumps, cooling, actual concrete action to help people and to prevent the crisis that's upon us right now.